If an emergency happens in your facility, being prepared makes a big difference between a minor incident and a major disaster. When you're prepared, you can detect the incident quickly, control it, and get everyone safely out of harm's way. This reduces the chances of injuries or deaths or damage to the facility. Emergency preparedness is a customer requirement. Customer codes of conduct require that suppliers meet safety standards and follow local safety regulations. On-site assessments will verify that your facility meets their standards. Here we'll show you the standards you must meet for emergency preparedness. We'll present exit routes, drills, alarms and fire suppression, safe material storage, and the emergency program. In an emergency, everyone must be able to evacuate in a quick and orderly way. Verify that your evacuation routes and emergency exits meet the requirements here. Your evacuation routes should have plans posted, be wide and clear, have handrails where needed, and lead to assembly points. There should be written emergency evacuation plans that map out the evacuation routes. How can people know where they are in relation to the map? They should have a "You are here," showing the viewer's position at the place where the map is posted. The plan should be in a language understood by most workers. The evacuation routes need to be wide enough for people to pass through, as defined in the local regulations. Make sure you keep the evacuation routes clear at all times: aisles, stairs, and passageways. To keep people from falling, make sure there are handrails and stairs and anywhere else they're required in local regulations. After people evacuate, they need to be counted to ensure everyone got out of the facility. Establish emergency meeting points in safe locations, outdoors for fires and indoors for storms. The assembly points must be big enough for all workers to gather. The emergency exits should be sufficient, marked, lit, unobstructed, unlocked, and lead to the exterior. To allow everyone to evacuate in time, there must be a sufficient number of emergency exits in all parts of the building. Different exit routes should not cross one another or share a common exit door. To be easily visible, the emergency exits must be clearly marked with signs that light up, even in a power failure. Exit signs on every floor should indicate the direction of emergency exits. Provide additional exit and directional signs in main passageways, corridors, and other locations where the way to the nearest exit is unclear. If a door is not an exit, it should be marked "Not an exit." There should be emergency lighting along exit routes wherever it's needed, especially in stairways. The lighting needs to have its own backup battery power in case the power goes out. The lighting must be industry grade and inspected regularly. The emergency exits need to be free of obstruction at all times. In some factories, workers use the emergency exits to go out for smoking breaks, creating safety and security issues. How could you address this? Locked emergency exit doors have trapped workers in burning buildings. Emergency exit doors must remain unlocked during working hours, including overtime, whenever people are in the building. The emergency exits must lead to the outside of the building, to an open space like a parking lot, not an enclosed area. The emergency exit doors need to meet all legal requirements. For example, is this true or false? All emergency exit doors should open inward. If exit doors open inward or sideways, when people try to escape, they may crowd at the door, preventing it from opening. That's why exit doors must open outward. If exits are sliding or rolling doors, they must have a safety feature allowing them to open outward also. People should be able to open the emergency exit doors easily without a key or a code. The unlocked doors must be able to be opened outward in a single motion, such as with a push bar. Fire doors should close by themselves. Facilities must conduct emergency evacuation drills and training. Conducting drills helps you ensure that all your employees know how to reach safety in an emergency. Suppose you're planning drills for your facility. When should you schedule emergency drills? The emergency evacuation drills should be conducted for all shifts and all workers and people on site. This includes nighttime drills when it's dark outside. Evacuation drills must be regularly conducted for all shifts and documented. The drills should cover fires and any other potential emergencies. Conduct evacuation drills regularly, at least once a year, and more often if local law requires. The drills should cover all shifts and all buildings and floors. Document the drills with dated photos and the list of people who participated. These reports should record the time the drill was conducted and how long it took to clear the building. Be sure to include any deficiencies that were identified during the drill. All facilities must have established emergency evacuation drill programs. Drills must be conducted for all workers and anyone present in the facility. They should cover every part of the facility, including warehouses, dormitories, offices, and production areas. Fire drills are required at least annually. The frequency of other emergency drills is determined by the risk assessment. Workers and supervisors should be trained regularly on fire safety. They should be trained in your fire prevention procedures, how to use fire extinguishers, and the emergency evacuation plan. In case a fire occurs, there must be adequate and effective fire detection, alarm, and suppression systems in place. Your facility must have a fire detection and alarm system that meets local regulations and the standards of insurance companies. These requirements often go beyond local legal minimum requirements. If you don't meet their requirements, the insurer will consider it negligence and therefore not cover the cost of fire damage. Your facility must be fitted with automatic heat and smoke detectors. These devices and systems must be functioning and well maintained. All buildings on site should have manual and automatic fire alarms and notification systems. Provide manual fire alarm call points or pull stations at or along evacuation routes and exits. The emergency alarm should be marked with signs and should be unobstructed. Inspect single-unit smoke and fire detectors at least every 6 months. Test the system regularly. Make sure the system can be heard everywhere in the facility. If there are places in the facility where people wear hearing protection, there should be visible alarms like flashing lights. Emergency alarms should have a backup battery. There must be adequate fire suppression methods, fire extinguishers, and automated suppression systems where needed. There must be sufficient fire extinguishers as required by law and, if necessary, fire hoses. Fire extinguishers should be appropriate to the types of potential fires in each part of the facility. They should be labeled according to the types of fire they are to be used for. They must be maintained and in good condition. If hoses are required, they must be of sufficient pressure to power the hose. Fire extinguishers must be placed throughout the facility no more than 23 meters from any employee or within the distance required by law. The extinguishers must be properly mounted, not just sitting on the floor. All firefighting equipment must be clearly marked and easily accessible. With the fire extinguishers, include instructions on how to use them. Each month, check all firefighting equipment. If there are fire hoses, check that the water tank is full and water pressure is normal. Note the inspection date on the device's tag and in your records. All your facility's fire suppression equipment must be tested and maintained according to the manufacturer's recommendations or insurance company requirements, whichever is stricter. Your facility should have automatic fire sprinklers. This is often required by law, depending on the building size. Suppose your facility is small enough that automatic fire suppression is not required by law. What does this indicate? Automatic sprinklers protect your facility, even when they're not required by law. And insurance requirements may exceed the legal requirements. If insurers find sprinkler systems are inadequate, they may refuse to cover fire damage. Fire suppression systems must be regularly maintained by a licensed professional when the law requires. There must be no fire suppression materials containing asbestos, like asbestos fire blankets. Provide and maintain emergency response kits near meeting points. What items should be included in the kit depends on the specific risks identified at your facility. For example, chemical emergencies will require different items and supplies than those needed during a natural disaster. To ensure that combustible or hazardous materials do not catch fire, they must be properly stored. Storage areas should be well lit, properly spaced, kept clear, and with no ignition sources. Proper lights must be installed in areas where flammable and combustible materials are stored. There must be enough distance between the rack and the wall in storage areas when the law requires there be a gap. Make sure there is sufficient space between storage items. This prevents fire from spreading quickly. Passages for fire trucks should be kept clear at all times. There should be no barrier for emergency exit windows to ensure instant use in the event of fire. Any flammable or combustible material and chemicals must be safely stored away from sources of ignition. To implement these requirements, your facility should have an emergency preparedness program. Ensure that trained staff are responsible for the program. They'll ensure your facility maintains its safety certificates and develop your emergency response plan. Make sure your facility has all the fire safety certificates, licenses, and inspection records as legally required. Have a system for regularly checking the validity and renewing any safety certificates. Your facility must have an emergency response plan in place, based on a risk assessment. The plan should have the contact information for emergency responders. Suppose a little fire occurred in the shipping area, but the fire was put out safely. What actions should take place in response to the fire incident? The facility needs to investigate why the fire happened so they can prevent it from reoccurring. As part of the emergency response plan, there should be a post-emergency plan for after an incident. The plan defines the method for reporting the incident, the investigation process, and the corrective action process. To prepare for emergencies, verify that your facility meets these standards for exit routes, drills, alarms and fire suppression, safe material storage, and an emergency program. By preparing for emergencies, you can protect your facility and the people who work there.